Hi guys, so I was requested to do a video about how to study for multiple tests in 1 week, and then I did want to just include some study tips in the video as well. So with nursing school, you will have multiple tests from multiple classes in 1 week. Sometimes you'll have multiple tests in 1 day. We did have one of those this semester, and from what I've been told from some of the other level students, it continues and gets worse. I know from some of the level 3 students, they had 3 finals in 1 day. So that may be something that you have to look forward to, I guess. But basically what I would recommend you doing as far as your test, be prepared before you go into class, before you start going over the material. So what I would do is, with our book for the fundamentals class, it came with a online access code. So if you bought your book used, I still recommend you buying that online access code because it will help. It does come in handy. So with that online access code, you have access to extra study guides, a question bank of over, I think it's like 800 questions for the book. You have answers to the questions that's at the back of your chapters. You have audio chapter summaries. You also have the PowerPoints for each chapter, which is something that the professors use. And you have, like, for your skill checkoffs, like, it has all that on there, and it also has videos for the skill checkoffs. So that really did come in handy. And I do think it's cheaper. Like, if you bought your book used, you will save some money if you just buy the code through the website. Or if you're lucky enough, or if you have a nice classmate, sometimes your classmates will share that access code. I did do that with one of my classmates this semester. I let her use my information. But basically what I would do is, because our professors, they did pull most of their information in their lectures and PowerPoint presentations from the website. So what I would do is, I would take those PowerPoints from the book website and turn it into an outline and put it in a Word document. So I'll try to, like, I'm not sure if I'm good with editing enough to include it right here, but if I can't, I'll go ahead and try to do a little voiceover. And basically what I use is my Google Docs. So after I pull everything from the book's website, I'll just click this one. So I turned the PowerPoint into a outline, and this is the outline. So this was for respiratory care, chapter 28. And so as you see, I put like everything in different colors. I include pictures because she had a picture on her PowerPoint because she added it, so that picture wasn't on the website. So I just went to Google and found my own pictures that's basically showing the same thing, your crepitus and, you know, cyanosis, all of that type of stuff. Now this stuff was a picture that she did give us in one of her PowerPoints, so I just included it here so I could know what that is. And as you see, pretty much each thing is in a different color. The only thing that's black is the text, unless it's like something that's a header and then explaining it like that. So this is pretty much how I did my outlines. And in my Google Docs, I have pretty much everything from the entire semester. I have a few that are not in here because, like I said, I used to write them out, and I can actually show you guys those as well. So as you see here, like for this one, I wrote everything out instead of typing it, but it's either or. But like I said, this was very time consuming, which is why I switched back to doing doing it on the computer or doing it on my iPad. So like this is a handout that she gave us. This was some notes that I was very grateful for someone giving to me. And so like here it is, like when I would print them out, I would print them in color still and put them in my binder. And how I have my binder set up, it was set up by exams or whatever it was that we were doing. So right here, so you see how I have 3 will be in one title, and then anything that's in red is either things that I felt would be important or it was something safety related. And once you get into nursing, you will understand everything is safety. Safety, 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 safety. Remember that and you'll do fine. So these were different safety things. If it's something as well that was in the safety point that I felt like was important, I would highlight it in different colors. And then like if they told us that a table was important, I would put all of that information from the table in my notes. So basically when I would go to take my test that day, I knew all I needed to do was bring this. I didn't need to bring my book. If I wanted to bring my book, I could, but this is pretty much all that I needed. I didn't need to bring anything else. And I had everything separated by the chapter here, by the test. So when I got ready to do it, I knew exactly what I was doing and where I needed to go in order to review the information. With it. So basically you can take your PowerPoint and put it in a outline form in the PowerPoint software, and then you can just copy it and paste it over to a Word document. And what I did was in class, I don't have a laptop, I have an iPad. So I just had it on my iPad, and as the professor was going with the lecture, I would just add stuff to the PowerPoint. So by the end of my class, I pretty much had exactly what they had. And then I would also have a little extra, because a lot of times your professors, they're going to say little things and little tidbits of stuff that is going to be important, because a lot of times in the lectures, your professor is going to say something and that's going to be a question on the test. So when they say stuff, if they tell you it's important, write it down, highlight it in your book, write it in your book, whatever it is you need to do so you can have all of that information. So once I was finished with that, doing that, another thing that I did too was before I went to class, I can't lie to you and tell you that I read the entire chapters before I went to class, but what I did do is I read the key terms and objectives at the beginning of the chapter, and then I read the key points and the question bank at the end of the chapter. That way, when I went into class, I knew what they were going to be talking about. I didn't have to kind of be up in the air like, okay, what is this information they're talking about? Because I at least knew the basics about what they're talking about. And then after class, I would go ahead and read the chapter, and then I would have that outline pulled up. So if it was something that they said in the book that you're going to need to remember, I would go ahead and put that information on my outline. Or if it was something that I felt like might have been important, like lab values or something like that, then I would go ahead and put that on the outline as well. So that way, by the time I get close to the test, all I really have to do is look at my outline, because I've already read the book, I've already read the key terms, the objectives, and the key points, so I can just basically go off of my outline. I also did the questions at the end of the chapter for every chapter. I also did the study guide for every chapter, and then I did the question bank on the website for every chapter. And those help more than you know, and sometimes you get lucky and your professor used some of those questions, which is great. The only time that it doesn't come in handy is with the study guide. The study guide, you don't have access to the answers for the study guide. Only the professor has those, because I guess it's a special instructor book or something. So the instructor has access to those, but you don't. And a lot of times the instructor won't give you the answers to it, which sucks, because I feel like if I'm getting it wrong, like, let me know that I'm getting it wrong. And so I'm not going into the test thinking I know this information and I really don't. So that part sucks, but other than that, I did all that information. And then I also try to read to understand. Don't read to remember, read to understand. Because if you remember it, that's great, but the question on the test is not going to be word for the book. It's going to be something like your patient has a hemoglobin level of 7 and her blood pressure is 84/62. What do you do? And so if all you've done was read what hemoglobin is and what the normal ranges for blood pressure is, you're not going to have any idea what's going on with this patient. Whereas if you read, okay, so I understand that hemoglobin, that's what helps with the oxygen in the blood and blah, 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 and with the blood pressure, so on and so forth, you will understand, okay, this patient might be hemorrhaging, or, you know, you'll kind of understand what's going on, and you'll be able to piece things together, so that way you'll be able to go boop, boop, boop. All right, now let's look at the answer choices. So this one is talking about dehydration. This one is talking about blood loss. This one is talking about this and that. You automatically know 9 times out of 10, this patient is losing blood. So boom, there you go. You found your answer because you understand the content. It's not enough with nursing, unfortunately, just to remember it, because that doesn't always help. You get lucky every now and again where they're going to ask you a definition-based question like, what is evisceration? And then you know evisceration is when, you know, you have your the wound came open and your insides are coming out of the wound. Like typically that's an abdominal wound. So stuff like that, it's like, okay, every now and again we'll get one of those. Wonderful. But for the most part, it's what do you do? That's nursing. All of your information is going to be, this patient has this, and this going on. What do you do? So you need to understand that. Some of my classmates did note cards or flashcards to study with. I tried that for one test and it did not work out well for me. That was my lowest scoring test. For some reason, note cards, I don't know, it just didn't work. But doing my outlines worked amazingly. And I also put my outlines in different colors. So the entire thing is colorful. I read somewhere that when something is colorful, first off, you want to read it because it's pretty. And second off, you're more likely to remember it because you've mentally enjoyed reading it. That makes any sense? I don't know. There's also going to be a lot of values. And with level 1, you're going to have quite a bit of math because your medicine administration is basically a math class. It's decimals, fractions, ratios, proportions. You're going to have to do some conversions. You're going to have your metric system, your apothecary system, your military time, your standard time, and then you're going to have to learn how to convert for your medication administration part. And then you're going to have to know, like, okay, well, if we have 325 milligrams of acetaminophen available, but the doctor is ordering 200 milligrams of it, you're going to need to know the formula of how to do that, which I use the fraction formula because that worked for me. There is, I think, 3 different ways that you can do it, but the fraction form worked perfect for me. I got all those right, so if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. I ain't do that. So that's it. And then as far as having multiple tests in 1 week or in 1 day, how to study for them. First off, when you have situations like this, be prepared to tell friends, family, no, I can't go, I gotta study. You're gonna have to do time management, point blank, period. It's not something that you can half step, that you can be like, oh, I'll just study for 30 minutes. No. Nursing is a lot of studying. I'm pretty sure there are some people in my class who was able to barely study and they were able to pass, but I'm the type that I don't want to barely pass it. Like, I want cushion. I want to have a high B or an A or whatever it is I can do in class. If you're fine with skating by, That's up to you, your degree, your grade, your life. But that wasn't something that I wanted to do. So what I would do is I would get my book for one of my subjects. So we'll just say for fundamentals. So I would study for fundamentals for at least 2 hours, or until I start reading and I can't comprehend what I'm reading. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody has been studying or just reading, and you've gotten to the point where you've read the same line 5 times and you have no idea what you've read. That means you're tired and your brain is shutting down. So when that would happen, I would get up, take a break, go get a snack, go work out, whatever it is that I was doing, only for like 30 minutes to an hour, then come right back and I would start studying again. But this time I'm studying for my med admin, and I'm gonna do the same thing, 2 hours. We're gonna do some of these practice questions. I'm gonna read this chapter. I'm gonna do whatever it is that I need to do for at least 2 hours or until my brain stops working. Go take a break again, come back, go back to fundamentals or go to nutrition, whatever other class that you're in. That, unfortunately, is what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to find how it works for you. For some people, they just choose to do an hour for this class, break, hour for this class, break, hour for this class, break, you know, so on and so forth. And if that works for you, perfectly fine. You can definitely do it that way. But I always try to do 2 hours. And then I would study literally every day. Like, it was no free day or break time. It was everyday studying. Even for Thanksgiving break, I was studying Thanksgiving break, mainly because I think we came back and we had like 3 tests, 2 presentations. We had a whole bunch of crap that was due after Thanksgiving break. So I didn't get to relax for my break. And this next semester is going to be way worse, because this semester I was in, it was technically 4 classes and a clinical, but one of my classes was online or whatever. But this coming semester, I'm going to be in like 7 classes, I think they said, and almost all of my classes have a clinical. So I'm really going to have to learn time management. And it's something that you're unfortunately going to have to do trial and error. So if you're someone who thinks maybe I can do flashcards, that's great, try that. But part of the reason why I can't do flashcards is because a lot of times I have to see it. I'm more of a hands-on and a little bit of a visual learner. When it comes to someone telling me something, I'm probably gonna look at you like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? Unfortunately, that's just me. I can't a lot of times just remember things by hearing it. But when I see things or when I get to actually do things, it typically sticks really fast. So with me being able to like read it and write it or whatever the case is, because basically that is hands-on and visual rolled into one, I'm able to remember it a little bit more. One thing that I did start out doing for the first half of my semester, and I did have to change it because it was too time consuming, was I would rewrite all of my notes. So I was still doing the same thing. I was still putting my PowerPoint in outline form on the computer, but then I would rewrite that entire outline by hand. The problem with that is these outlines a lot of times are like 40 plus slides long. Plus I'm trying to read the book and add the extra stuff in. So it was taking me between 8 hours to a day to finish one chapter. And each test has 3 to 4 chapters for one class. So if I'm trying to do that for all of my classes, by the time I finish writing all my notes, it's test day. That's not gonna work out. So I had to learn a more efficient way to do it. And honestly, doing it on the computer did help. And when I do it, I don't just like mindlessly do it. I'm reading it and looking at it and paying attention to it as I do it. Because if you just mindlessly kind of play stuff and if you're talking and doing other things, none of what you're doing is going to register to you. because you're not paying it any attention. But when I'm redoing my outlines, I'm looking at the titles. I'm like skimming through, reading through what's on the PowerPoints and all that type of stuff. So that way I kind of have an understanding of what's going on before I ever get into class. Another thing that would be helpful, if your school allows you to have a tape recorder, record the lectures. Because a lot of times, if you're anything like me, when I would be writing down what the professor said, I would miss something else that she said. Whereas if you have it all on audio, you can be listening to it while you're redoing your notes or while you're going over your outline. And so you'll be like, oh, that's what she said. And you can go ahead and add that to your outline. That may help you a whole lot. It definitely did with me. Now, I was only able to do that the first few weeks of school. And then after that, you have to go sign all these documents stating that if you do blah, 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 you're kicked out of the program. And one of the things that's in our contract is no audio devices and things like that. So you're not supposed to use them. So we were able to use them up until then. So, And then if you have a professor for your skills and things like that, that's kind enough to let you record them, because that way you can be looking at it while you're waiting to do your skill check off, or you can be looking at it at home so you can practice if it's something that you're able to practice on, like with your donning and doffing of your PPE, your personal protective gear. If you're watching how the professor does it on your video, you can go home and practice that, because they do give you, I believe we had our thing to go home and practice with. Or if it's hand washing or whatever, some of the stuff that you don't really need equipment for, you can take it home and practice on it. So one of my professors was kind enough where she did let me record her while she was doing it, because one of the kind of sucky parts is the video that they show you for your skill checkoffs, sometimes it's not exactly the way they want it done. And you always want to do it the way your professor wants it done, because they're the one that's grading you. And with your skill checkoffs, it's either pass or fail. That's it. And you only get 2 chances. Once you fail the second time, you're out you're not out of the program, but you fail the class. So you would have to try to wait until the next semester to redo it again. That's it. But yeah, so for studying and for the having multiple tests in a day or in the same week, you just have to learn time management, and you have to do trial and error to figure out what works for you. When it comes to study partners, that was a little hard, because you can get a hold to an amazing study partner or study group that can really, really help you, and that you guys can just bounce off of each other, and they can help you understand something, or you can help them understand something in a way that you probably didn't think about before, and it will help you guys with the test. However, if you have one of those study partners that when you guys are trying to study, they're talking about everything but studying, and they're talking about everything but the work, get rid of them. Because the time that you spend talking about their friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you could have been studying and learning some additional information, point blank period. You can be nice about it, but at the end of the day, this is your grade, not theirs. If they're willing to fail, that's their business, but you got to be able to say, okay, no, this isn't gonna work, or hey, come on, we need to focus, whatever the case is, and just let that be that. I did study with a few different people over this first semester, and truthfully, it was helpful to an extent. Because like I said, we were sometimes able to bounce off of each other. Like some of them, they understood things in ways that I did not understand at all. And they helped me understand this. I was like, awesome, great, thank you. And it helped me with the test. And I was able to do the same thing for them. But at the same time, which it's normal, you get sidetracked. And before you know it, you're talking about your dog, your kids, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And it's like, no, you can't do that. You need to be focused. And if that's something that they're doing and it bothers you, remove yourself from the situation and study by yourself or find someone else to study. I was lucky enough that my sister, she's already a nurse. She actually has her master's in nursing. So when I wouldn't understand something, I would call her or come to her house, whatever the case is, and she would be able to say, oh, well, you just do blah, 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 like this. And I would be like, oh, well, you didn't have to make it seem so simple. But I was lucky enough to have that. If you don't have that, that's fine. You can even get in contact. If some of the other level students will be nice enough to you, get in contact with them and say, hey, I'm not understanding this. Do you have time to help me, or do you mind helping me? And a lot of times they're really nice. Like the level 3 students this past semester was amazing. They were so helpful. Like I don't care. I don't think I met any of them that were rude, honestly. Like all of them were amazing. They helped us with different stuff. They were like, okay, the teacher, she liked the test like this, so look at blah, 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 blah. Like they were really helpful in that sense. So that was like wonderful. So check with some of your upper level students as well to see if maybe they can help you, or even if you're in the RN program, sometimes some of the LVN students can help you, because a lot of this information is the same. From what I've been told by some of the department people, the main difference between the LVN program and the RN program is, well, first off, they get to do a little bit more than we do, but a lot of it is manager type stuff or business type stuff. So the actual base of nursing for LVN and RN is exactly the same, but they have to take more manager classes and business classes and legal classes because they have to know more of that aspect of it than LVNs do. Now, I do know some people might be like, oh, that's not it, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. I've talked to some of the RN students at my school, and yeah, a lot of the information that we're going over is the same. Some of it that we've already done, they haven't got to it yet because their program is longer than ours. Their program is 2 years. Our program is a year. So whereas we're doing things like this, theirs is a little bit slower. So whatevs. But yeah, definitely talk to different people. Talk to the LVN program, RN program, whoever you need to talk to, or you can even go to one of the science teachers, because they may understand something. Like one of our anatomy teachers, she used to be a doctor. She was an actual practicing doctor, and she fell in love with teaching and decided to come and teach. So you can ask her stuff. I'm pretty sure she would know things. So it's just like, use your resources. Don't be afraid to ask. The worst they can do is say no. If they say no, so what? Go find another resource. Seriously, that simple. And as far as when you get ready to take your test, or I guess test taking advice or whatever, first off, relax. Just breathe. I know that sounds easier said than done, but just breathe, relax, and read the question thoroughly. Read the whole question. Don't just read the beginning and then be like, oop, I know this answer. Read the question beginning to end, word for word. Because a lot of times in those questions, it's one word that will change what your answer should or should not be. If it's something where it's a name all of the signs and symptoms of AFib, you're going to name all the signs and symptoms. Or if it says all of these are signs and symptoms of AFib except, so you're going to pick the one who's not a sign and symptom. Like, you have to understand that. Or it may say which of the following is a sign of AFib. So you may have to just select one, or you may have to select all. So you do have to read that too. Make sure you read whether or not it says select all that apply. And do be aware that with select all that apply, even though it says select all that apply, it can only be one answer sometimes. So you can have 5 answer choices and it can be one, or it can be all 5. So make sure that you're not just being like, oh, well, it selects all that apply. Let me pick multiple, because that's not always right. And with nursing, they don't give you partial credit. If you do not select all of them that are right, or you select too many, or you don't select enough, your answer's wrong. Even if it was 4 that were correct and you picked 3 out of the 4, your answer's still wrong. There is no partial points. There is no partial credit. It's straight up wrong. What I would do is I would read the question slowly, and I would reread it 2 to 3 times if I wasn't understanding it. Then I would go down and I would read the answer choices. Sometimes after you read the question, you look at the answer choices and you know what your answer is. Other times it's going to take a little bit more deciphering, I guess if you want to call it. So what I would do, and which is what one of my professors told me, which was good advice, treat each answer choice like a true or false question. So if you have 4 answer choices and you're talking about, like I said, with AFib, okay? And the first answer choice is patients with AFib have diarrhea. Is that true or is that false? So it's like, if it's false, nope, we know that's not it, go to the next one. And so like if it's one of them that says everything is signs and symptoms of AFib except, you'll do the same thing. Okay, are all of these true? All the ones that are true, you know that's not the answer. But that one that's false, you know that's the answer. Or the select all that apply, do the same thing. Okay, the ones that are true, boop, 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 you know those are the answers. So sometimes if you don't understand fully the question, you have to then start breaking down your answer choices. And that has helped me on multiple tests, because it was some questions that I genuinely did not understand what the question was asking. I understood like part of the question. So like I said, if it's talking about AFib, okay, I know what AFib is. So if it's asking me something about AFib, let me answer these questions in a true false form about AFib. And that would help you answer that question. And I got a lot of those questions right off of doing that, off of simply breaking down the question into parts. If it's something where you know the answer, select your answer and go to the next thing. Do not second guess yourself, and do not stay on that question too long. That was my downfall on some of my tests. Some of my tests, honestly, I could have had a much better grade than I did, but I would second guess myself. So it'll be something that I know it, and you know how sometimes as soon as you see it, you automatically know what the answer is, and you select the answer. Instead of just going to the next question, I would sit there and I'd be like, well, maybe it's not AFib, maybe they are dehydrated, and I will talk myself out of the correct answer. I did that so many times. If I could slap myself, well, I could slap myself, but I'm not. I did that so many times that I was kicking myself when we got to go back over the questions, because every time I had selected the right answer and I changed it. I had one of my tests that I got, I think a 92 on it. I could have gotten a 100 on that test if I had not been changing my answers. But I always overthink things. I always second guess myself. And it's something that I am working on. Don't do that. If you know it, go to the next thing. If you know that you know it, do not talk yourself out of it. Don't talk yourself out of it. My mom always says, God speaks to you first, the devil speaks to you last. So a lot of times that initial answer that you thought it was, it's almost always the right answer. And that second answer that you picked was nothing but the devil coming in trying to make you fail this test, okay? So Stay with your answer. Stick with your gut. Follow your first mind. Follow your intuition, whatever it is you want to call it. A lot of times it's right. And we just end up, I guess, thinking we're not as smart as we are and talking ourselves out of it. Because I'm telling you, I did that so many times where I would talk myself out of an answer and my initial answer was right. Don't do that. Do not go with your first mind. And like I said, if you're not sure of the answer, break it down. Like, check it off. Okay, remove this and do this, do this. If your test is on paper, which I love paper tests. If your test is on paper, underline different parts of the question. So like I said, if it's a question where it says all of the following are signs and symptoms of AFib except, underline except. So that way, while you're looking at the questions, you know you're looking for whichever answer is wrong when it comes to AFib, not which one is right. Make sure you do that. Also with your MedAdmin, you have to do the same thing. Make sure you look at if it says round to the nearest tenth, round to the nearest whole number. If it's a fraction, it may say leave in an improper fraction, or it may put in a proper fraction. It also may be asking you for your answer in milligrams, but your question is in grams. So you need to know, okay, I need to change this from grams to milligrams, and make sure you read, like, underline little stuff like that. Like on my MedAdmin test, luckily those were paper. I had marks all over that paper because I was underlining or circling different things that I knew I needed to pay attention to. Pay attention to some of the little things that's on the test, because some of the questions, they are trick questions. Like we had a question where you had to look at the medication label. The question said that you were going to give, I forgot what the medication was, but you needed to give 0.2 milligrams subcutaneous, I think it was Q 8 hours, I think it was, which is every 8 hours. So if you look at the medication label, so it said that the medication was 1 milligram per, it was like 1 milligram of medication per 2 mLs. And at the bottom, like if you look over where it says how you can give it, it says you can only give it, I think it was intramuscular. So I think just about all of us in the class got that question wrong, because we didn't pay attention to that part on the label that said to only give intramuscular. The question told us to give it subcutaneous. You can't give it subcutaneous. You can only give that medication intramuscular. If you gave that medication subcutaneous, that will be a medication error, which will be a problem if you lose your license for it. So make sure you read that. And the question was, how many milliliters would you give? And the correct answer should have been 0, because it was asking you to give the medication subcutaneous, but you could only give it intramuscular. So that's another reason why I say read the full thing, because after that test, oh, we all read. We all read beginning to end. We read that whole label, the fine print, everything, to make sure that we didn't have that issue again. So don't skim through anything. Read everything, beginning to end, top to bottom, left to right. Read the whole thing. I think if you do that, and if you read to understand your course information, you'll be fine. You'll be great. So just do that and you'll be good, okay? That's all I can really think of. I hope I didn't miss anything. I really hope I didn't. I probably did. If I did, I'm sorry. But thank you so much for watching. Comment down below if you have any questions, like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.